We had many buildings in Andover take very tough damage.
Right now at 6, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly has declared a state of disaster emergency following tornado touchdowns in the state. We'll have the latest on the destruction left behind.
Plus, after storms last night, we're enjoying a bit of a lull this evening and through tomorrow, but we'll break down when our next chance for severe weather will come rolling in.
Also, the Carthage Water and Electric Plant hosting the annual Tower Run in honor of Drinking Water Week, and Miracle League Baseball back in full swing in Joplin following a pandemic hiatus. You're watching the KOAM News at 6, and it starts right now. Survivors of the tornado in Andover, Kansas are picking up the pieces after Friday night's powerful storm. No one was killed, and so far we're only hearing about minor injuries, but dozens of buildings have been damaged. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Chris Warner. A tornado tore through the Wichita, Kansas area, damaging buildings, causing injuries, and leaving thousands without power. Residents are just beginning to assess the destruction. Officials say there were no deaths reported. CBS News correspondent Michael George reports from New York.
The powerful tornado damaged dozens of homes and buildings across south central Kansas, including this YMCA just a few miles east of Wichita.
Wasn't there for that long, but it felt like the longest 10 seconds of my life.
I saw the cone start to drop. I told my wife, I said, I think we've got a funnel cloud. It immediately formed, dropped down. We were grabbing our dogs, getting into the basement.
The twister moved through the area Friday evening, knocking down power lines and tossing these cars in the city of Andover around like toys.
We're working really close as a team to make sure that we have a good assessment of the damage that's happening, as well as just to continue to search to make sure that everybody is safe.
To the north near Harrington, this twister touched down along a country road. On Saturday, daylight revealed block after block of homes and trees broken apart.
We're just going to try and see if there's anything else we can salvage.
Kansas Governor Laura Kelly declared a state of disaster emergency for the hardest hit areas. That'll make state resources available to help with response and recovery efforts. Michael George, CBS News.
In addition to the twister, the National Weather Service and storm spotters said hail the size of softballs was reported near Hallbrook, Nebraska and Enterprise, Kansas. Of course, those storms made it to the four-state area. Thankfully, they calmed down a bit before they got here. Nick Kelly, though, on what they did leave behind.
Well, all they did in terms of severe weather-wise, Chris, is maybe give us a few minor reports of hail, maybe between penny and quarter size, but thankfully, we didn't have any tornadoes to deal with, even though we had a couple tornado warnings in our far western counties going into the late night hours, but we had nothing to be worried about, looking flat out good with that mostly sunny sky from 7th and Rangeline. Earlier this morning, though, because of all the rain that just kept training over the Joplin Metro, we had some flash flood warnings, but those were expired by about 8:30 this morning. But other rain, especially from up north around Kansas City, still trying to filter through parts of the Sac River. So the little branch of the Sac River north of Stockton Lake, that's going to run a little high until it really calms down by about early Monday morning. But that was your main culprit, why we saw so much rain. That big line of storms that plowed on through this morning, that is continuing with more severe weather off to the east of the region, while we keep an eye on the next building storm system out to the west and southwest. But again, we're getting a nice break in between storm systems. Upper 60s to lower 70s across much of the region now. But once we get past sunset, we'll fall through the 60s, 50s, and I'm thinking down to the upper 40s for tonight. Chris, we'll see how nice our Sunday's looking and when our next shot for severe weather will likely roll in here in a few.
All right, Nick, thank you. Carthage Water and Electric Plant hosting its annual Tower to Tower Run. The event is held to raise money for the organization Water for People, which is an organization that helps communities in their effort to get clean drinking water from all over the world.
Yeah, so I think we're just so blessed here in Carthage to have a quality utility that provides drinking water for us, and we don't have to think about it every day, but people all over the world do have to think about it, and it's an issue. So we want to help be an aid to the cause.
There were about 60 people taking part in this morning's run. The Miracle Baseball League is in full swing after a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic. The league gives adults with special needs the opportunity to go out and compete in a baseball game. Each participant gets 2 turns at bat and multiple opportunities in the outfield.
It's great to be back because this is our first season in a couple years due to the pandemic. So last week was our first week, and seeing all the returning players and new players, the families and the smiles and the tears and the hugs, it's great.
The league season lasts about 6 weeks. And we take this time now to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Staff Sergeant Donald Leach served in the Army during Desert Storm. He served his country for 20 years before retiring his hometown, Girard, Kansas. And we're proud to recognize Staff Sergeant Donald Leach, tonight's four-state hero. And remember, learn more about our other heroes or nominate one of your own. You can do that anytime at KOAMNewsNow.com. Still ahead, the head of the FDA says medical misinformation is now the leading cause of death in the U.S. Plus, the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention is investigating unusual cases of hepatitis among children. Getting shorter almost all the time. Here's a look at a time lapse of our tower camera, sponsored by R.E. Smith Construction, as the work continues on the KOAM More Power project. If you're wanting to know what that's all about, we've got a whole page set up for it at KOAMNewsNow.com/power. The head of the FDA says medical misinformation is now the leading cause of death in the U.S. The agency's commissioner, Dr. Robert Califf, made the statement at the annual meeting of the Association of Healthcare Journalists in Austin on Friday. Califf shared that he believes medical misinformation and disinformation is a serious problem in this country, especially involving the coronavirus. He points to disinformation as being at least partly to blame for the falling life expectancy in the U.S., but he says there is no way to document it. Americans' life expectancy now trails behind other wealthy nations by over 5 years. Califf says one of his long-term priorities as FDA commissioner would be to address the battle of misinformation. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention investigating unusual cases of hepatitis among children. CDC released new clinical details about some of the cases Friday. At least 18 cases have been reported in 4 states. The first cases come from Alabama and include 9 patients admitted to a children's hospital. They involve children with acute hepatitis, but no one knows what caused it. According to the CDC, all of the patients tested negative for hepatitis viruses, but positive for adenovirus. Those are common viruses that can cause a range of illnesses. They have been known to cause hepatitis in immunocompromised children. 3 patients ended up developing acute liver failure. All of them are now recovering. CDC now recommends health providers test children who have unknown hepatitis cases for adenovirus. FDA advisors are scheduled to meet in June to discuss Novavax's request for an emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine. The FDA announced a tentative schedule Friday for its Vaccines Advisory Committee. It includes a June 7th meeting to review the protein-based vaccine. Novavax submitted an emergency use request in January. The vaccine is administered as 2 doses 3 weeks apart. Now, unlike Pfizer and Moderna's mRNA vaccines, Novavax took a more traditional approach using small laboratory-built pieces of the coronavirus to stimulate immunity. In November, Indonesia became the first nation to grant emergency use authorization for Novavax's vaccine. It's since been authorized in the European Union, the UK, Canada, South Korea, Australia, India, the Philippines, and New Zealand, among other countries. The U.S. reports its first human case of the avian bird flu, and Moderna is asking the FDA to authorize its vaccine for young kids. Michael George has some of the week's top health stories.
Drug maker Moderna has asked the FDA to authorize its 2-dose shot for children ages 6 months to 6 years. That would cover roughly 18 million young Americans not yet eligible for shots. Each vaccine is 1/4 the strength of an adult dose. The FDA has announced a plan to ban all menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars nationwide. Menthols make up more than 1/3 of cigarettes sold in the U.S. Citing one study, the agency says the move could save as many as 633,000 lives over the next 40 years. And the CDC is reporting the first known human case of the avian bird flu in the U.S. in a Colorado prison inmate. The man was working with poultry as part of a pre-release employment program and is largely asymptomatic. Those are some of the week's top health stories. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Later on the news at 6, a national treasure that cuts right through the 4 states is celebrating a major milestone.
But first, we'll look back on what the storms left behind in terms of rain the other night, and when our next shot will come on in. Forecast next. Fortunately, for the most part, the storms pretty much behaved as they rolled on through late last night and into this morning, but those without saying, it was certainly a loud start to the morning. Let's take the Skywatch Storm Tracker full and let's see how the storms played out throughout the course of the day. You can see how we had that big thin band of showers and thunderstorms, that line along the approaching cold front just plow on through. That was our big rainmaker that we were waiting for as we went through late last night and into early this morning. But we didn't get a lot of severe weather out of it. Maybe a couple instances of penny to quarter size hail, but this is what the majority of us got out of it. A lot of rainfall, area-wide average almost an inch, but we did see some heavier amounts pushing over 3, if not 4 inches of rain across parts of Vernon, Barton, Jasper, Cherokee counties. In fact, the Joplin area had to undergo a flash flood warning late last night and up until about 8:30 this morning. Those have long since expired, but we're still seeing the water run a little high around the Sac River near Kaplinger Mills. So as long as it continues to fluctuate above and back below flood stage until Monday, 3 o'clock or about 3:30 in the morning, that's just something to keep in mind if you're going to be venturing out around the north sides of Stockton Lake. Thankfully, though, we're on the backside of the system now. We're in between storm systems now, meaning the radar network is going to get a nice break tonight with nothing to track, but it's going to be a different story by the time we start heading into Monday. And behind the cold front, not a big drop in temperatures, but a bit cooler nonetheless. We had mid to upper 70s, maybe a few spots near 80 the other day, back into the upper 50s to near 60 this morning, and so far back near 70 at Joplin Regional. And we're still looking good around Joplin. 68 degrees with the west wind at 17, gusts near 25. And that humidity not too bad, sitting at 50%. Most spots are in the mid to upper 60s, along south of 44. You're seeing some lower 70s trying to hold on, but eventually everybody will fall through the 60s, 50s, most of us down into the upper 40s as we venture into the overnight with thankfully mostly clear skies and no threatening weather to track. The severe weather now is working across the eastern parts of the upper Midwest, from Illinois stretching down to the boot heel of Missouri and back down even in the parts of the deep south, because that's where our cold front is now. But look at what's happening to the west of us. Not only the next cold front trying to develop, but a warm front developing on the backside of our last storm system. This is going to come into play by the time we head into Monday, in addition to this upper level low working in the Pacific Northwest. In the short term, though, we're getting rid of the last upper low to help aid in our storm chances the other night. That just means mostly clear skies going through the overnight into Sunday morning, and then eventually some partly sunny skies filtering in late tomorrow afternoon, but still looking at a pretty good day, and thankfully not as windy compared to today. 48 in the morning, 67 by noon, highs near 73. The radar wants to paint maybe a few showers by tomorrow afternoon. I think we're dry during the day, but late going into Monday morning, I think that's when we'll have our first shot for some scattered storms, nothing severe. But even if we get those storms, look at what happens as we go into Monday night, ahead of that next approaching cold front. 10 o'clock over to midnight and as late as 1 a.m. That's going to be the next best shot for severe weather, a low to elevated risk for severe weather. And with the way things are setting up between 7 o'clock Monday evening and 1 a.m. Tuesday, we need to keep a close eye on pretty much everything. It's an elevated threat of not only heavy rain, but high wind, large hail. You can't rule out some tornadoes as well if we can get some supercells to develop ahead of that approaching cold front. But 73, dry, nothing to worry about tomorrow. 72 Monday with already I declared Monday an alert day because of the storm chances Monday night. 65 Tuesday, 72 Wednesday. Just keeping an eye on several rain chances throughout the stretch, Chris, and maybe another shot for severe weather Wednesday and Thursday.
You and Doug have both mentioned that we're really getting into severe weather season, and between last night and this Monday, it's kind of a sign that that's where we are.
Yeah, a bit of an active stretch still ahead of us, but at least we can end the weekend on a quiet note tomorrow.
Yeah, and now is the perfect time, while it's quiet, to get that Skywatch weather app. It is free. It's available in the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. All you need to do is search for the KOAM Skywatch weather. It'll pop up. Severe weather alerts, latest forecast, and of course everything you need from Doug, Nick, and Michael right there in the palm of your hand. And as we head into Monday, now's the time to download it if you haven't done so already. Well, college softball regular season wrapping up this weekend. Missouri Southern closing it out with a 4-game homestand starting with Newman today. We'll have the details. Plus, Southern baseball hosts Missouri Western for Senior Day. We've got those highlights next.
The Lions got off to a good start in their final series of the regular season. Missouri Southern took a dominating win over Missouri Western in the opener on Friday. Today they'll aim to do it again on Senior Day. First inning, Tommy Stevenson hits it high and deep to right center. Matt Miller scores from second. Then in the third, Miller breaks a 1-1 tie. Base knock scores Case Tucker. The Griffins break it open in the fifth. Brendan Anderson, 3-run jack to right. So the Lions have to get to work now, down by 6. Nate Miskowski rips one down the third baseline for a double. Then Henry Kuziak brings him in. This one hops over the fence for a ground rule double. Southern grinds to get back in it, but Western hangs on to win 11-9. Pitt State on the road to wrap up the season on the field today for Game 2 against Washburn. The Gorillas find themselves in a 7-0 hole after the first inning. They slowly fight back, but it isn't enough for the comeback. Washburn evens the series, winning 10-8. Cruz Aranda goes 2 for 3 with a 2-run home run. At the high school level, the Joplin Eagles are at home today. Joplin hosts Carthage for the second meeting between these two teams this season. The Eagles got the best of the Tigers earlier this month, winning 8-5 today. Jackson Queen walks it off for Joplin. Eagles win 8-7. We'll have highlights from this one right here at 10. Missouri Southern softball is just above 500 in conference play this season, sitting at 12-10, heading into the final weekend of the regular season. The Lions close out their 2022 schedule with a 4-game homestand. Southern hosts Newman today for a doubleheader. In Game 1, Tori Frazier hits a 2-run double in the 5th for the lead. That ends up bringing in the game-winning run. Lions win 2-1. In Game 2, Southern goes for the sweep. They get on the board first. This is awesome. Adriana Young hits an inside-the-park home run. Lions up 1-0. Jets respond, though. Samantha Gutierrez nearly clears the fence, but it's an RBI double. Then Gianna Navarro gives Newman the lead with a base hit to left. Kristen Wade scores on a pass ball in the 12th inning. Lions walk it off 4-3. Pitt State also at home. Tough one today against 4th-ranked Central Oklahoma. Huge win for the Gorillas in Game 1. PSU wins 11-7. They do it by launching 4 homers. And what a game for Paxton Hayes. She hits 2 of those home runs, going 4 for 4 with 5 RBI. The Broncos earn the split, taking Game 2 11-1.
Certainly, again, we are right into the middle of spring sports season, so all this baseball. And everybody at home should know, I'm from Joplin. What they may not know is the wife's from Carthage. So there's a great rivalry that goes on there. So when you announced that win, I was like, yeah.
So you get bragging rights today.
I do for a little bit until she puts me in my place.
Well, what a battle. What a great game. A lot of extra
absolutely.
innings and just some really good stuff today.
Some phenomenal, I mean, it started with football last year. Some phenomenal players this year. Danny, thank you so much. Up next, we're going to celebrate a legendary birthday. Well, having inspired songs and road trips for decades, the famed Route 66 celebrating a big birthday on this day. It was 96 years ago. Named US 66 was proposed for a cross-country route connecting Chicago, Illinois, and Santa Monica, California. And when it was built, the highway made cross-country travel affordable for many Americans, helped boost the economies of the cities it passed through, like many around here. It's known for a number of retro diners, odd hotels, breathtaking scenery, and it's a bucket list for many. Now, technically, the route doesn't exist anymore since interstates replaced it, but it's been classified as a National Scenic Byway with the name Historic Route 66 for your motoring pleasure. And of course, Route 66 cutting through a number of communities around here. Communities around here watching the forecast over the next 48 hours or so.
Yeah, quiet tomorrow. Nothing to worry about to wrap up the weekend, and mild too with highs for 73. But even though we're mild on Monday, I want to watch for storms in the morning. They should not pack a big punch, but the storms Monday evening could pack a bigger punch. That's why the alert day is out for Monday.
All right, Nick, thank you. That is our time for now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back here at 9 and 10, and thanks for making us part of your night.
Salon service is provided